salt kiln.
Where the poor folk gather salt when the tide is through Okapi Beach.
Pine Islands, where beneath the moon Nojima's sea folk scoop up reflections with keen delight. Scoop up reflections with keen delight. The Ise coast, Futami shore, twin sister rocks. Oh, I would twin a past life in the world with one renewed.
When pine trees stand misty in the vernal sun,
The sea run far
off,
past tidal flats of Narumigata, Bay of the Sounding Sea. Narumigata.
With Paddy Cunneen, who has adapted and is directing the second in our series of Corona Classic Cuts, which is The Wind in the Pines by Kanami. Now, The Wind in the Pines is Japanese Noh
Yes.
theatre.
Yes.
So, which is a form of theatre that's quite unfamiliar to a Scottish audience.
I believe so. It's quite codified, rarefied. It's quite difficult on some levels for Westerners to penetrate how the play is working, because it's not narrative driven the way that our theatre tradition has been. And although there is a story in it, the way the story is presented is very much fed to a kind of Japanese sensibility for poetry, for philosophy, for considerations of the beauty of the universe and all those things to which the Japanese culture seems to be very susceptible. And I'm not saying that we're not susceptible to those things at any rate, but we haven't actually placed those things central in the way we do theatre.
No.
So Japanese Noh plays, there are lots of different kinds. We're doing a Mugen Noh, which is a Noh play about ghosts. And in Mugen Noh there are 5 categories, and we're doing a 3rd category, Mugen Noh, and that just gives you an idea of how complex the codification of Noh is. We're doing a 3rd category, Mugen Noh, which is about women, a ghost play about women.
Right.
So, and it's these plays were all done by men. Techniques developed such as wearing masks, and a great part of the craft was for the male actors particularly to present the women in a credible way, and they were stylized. And in the Mugen Nohs we have the women are fundamentally suffering, so these portrayals tend to be very empathetic towards the women's position in a culture which I'm not sure how wide that sensibility was.
What kind of time period are we talking about? When were these plays created?
I should know this, 1300s.
Right, so they're really old.
They are. Yeah, they're very.
And so, would a Japanese audience come to it knowing? I mean, are they done regularly? Phenomenally
well informed. I mean, I went to see a kabuki play, and as a musician, I was just fascinated to understand that in a kabuki play you play a particular rhythm on the drums, and the audience knows that it's on a mountain. It's a mountain at night time, and you play a different rhythm on the drums, and the audience will say, it's on a mountain at night time and it's snowing. And it's that's how sophisticated the audience become in understanding how the play is codified. The same is true with Noh.
With Noh.
Yeah.
So transporting that to a Scottish audience who don't have that knowledge, and also condensing it is a challenge. How have you?
Well, it is a challenge. The first real loss in condensing it is that in doing it in Oranmore, we've had to do it without a chorus, and a Noh play takes place with a chorus on the side. It has 4 musicians, a chorus, and then the actors, and the space is very carefully laid out. There's always a monk, and then there's a central character, and the central character often has an assistant, a companion, and then there's a comic character. But the biggest loss that we've got here in the first place will be the loss of a chorus, because it's a very, very driven, beautiful sound. It's of course a very forceful tenors pumping highly emotional chants and musical lines into this, so we haven't been able to do that. In terms of the wider issue of how do you adapt a Noh for a Glasgow audience, I think there's something fundamental in the Noh play which is to do with those women suffering for the loss of, the story involves these two women who were involved with a poet, and he was called away, and then they get word that he's died, and it's an exploration of their grief really. They become unstuck in time, they become ghosts because they're separated from that which kept them alive and was their reason for living. And so for a Glasgow audience, I think there's a human dimension which can really is really accessible, and that's the aspect to play up primarily. And what I'm hoping is that element, that will be the visible element which will sustain the audience while they look at other aspects such as poetry and movement and chanting and singing in the telling. That story, I hope, will be the interest which sustains them through some of the more difficult aspects of it. But those difficult aspects are beautiful, it's just that they're not necessarily narratively focused.
Yeah, it's a combination of seeing things which are unusual, but having that heart, that universal story.
Yeah. Because it's still about, fundamentally it's still about people. It's just very heavily codified.
And like love and loss and those things.
Primarily
poetry
about
and
that.
Talk a little bit about the music.
The music.
If you
Okay, for doing the music, in a no play you have 4 musicians, you have 3 drummers and a flute player. We've taken a few liberties here as well because we need something more we don't have 4 musicians, so we need to, in order to keep musical colour developing through it, we've taken liberties using different kinds of flutes, and we've added some bells and things like that. But we've managed to get Clive Bell, who's a friend of mine from London and an expert in Japanese musical instruments. He's also a journalist in the Wire. He's a very, very, very clever man. And he's brought up shakuhachi, which is a sound that people will probably know as being a kind of signature Japanese flute sound, and a collection of other instruments. And we have gone so far as we've included some instruments that are maybe outside the true purist Noh, but they have such fantastic oral colour that they're worth keeping in. So we have a whole range of things. Clive underscores much of the speeches, and along with that we also have chanting and singing, but fragmented, so that a character will come on and a line that's particularly emotionally powerful might be sung, and then they will carry on speaking, and the idea would be to elide from one form of expression into the other.
But no, try as we may, a woman's wagon
rolls in, falls back, salt sea breakers. 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 Out by the reeds, cranes fly up with cries. The 4 storm winds all add their roar. The dark night and the frigid cold, how can it be endured? The night wears on. The deepening moon shines bright. We catch the moon's reflections. Salt fire smoke. Take care of that.
What made you decide to do this?
This-
Is it an interest you've had for ages?
Well, yes, I've done no plays before. I really like them, but also I think one of the things about the Corona Classic Cut season, where the reason why I took it to David was that there's been some really interesting things done in it. And it's an opportunity to get out of our usual mindset and see what's going on elsewhere. I mean, for example, was it last season there was Fuente Ovejuna, which in Europe is one of the best known plays, and that line, "Who killed the commander?" Fuente Ovejuna did it. That on the continent, that's the equivalent of "To be or not to be." That's as well known, but we don't know that.
No.
So I think the Classic Cuts really gives an opportunity to go exploring in a way which is accessible, and bring something of the flavour of that. And I think no plays are so exotic and so interesting that there's definitely worth a look. For me personally, there's a Japanese term which is called yugen, and it's kind of we called it cosmic elegance in there. That's the essence of the play should be cosmic elegance of some kind. But they also describe it as the feeling one gets when one looks at a full moon and considers everything. It's that kind of it's an aesthetic perception of who one is in relation to the universe, and so yugen is a really important concept in Noh. And the reason why I like it is why I wanted to do it, because it's full of yugen, and this idea that time is completely slowed down in a Noh play, which set against our contemporary lives is a welcome relief, I think. And also it gives us the opportunity to move from that kind of collage view of life where we do one thing and then the next and then the next and the next, and actually spend some time just contemplating one particular issue. So everything is slowed down. Noh did start as a Buddhist ceremony, so it was a Buddhist ritual which became more and more codified and placed within theatre, which is what Zeami. The play is written by Kanami, as you so elegantly said. But Kanami's son was Zeami, and he was the greatest Noh playwright.
Thank you, Paddy. So The Wind in the Pines opens on the 13th of June at Oranmore.